Okay, in this section, we are going to cover the agreement of purchase and sale that you use when buying a property. So the first question is, how much should I offer the sellers? You want to offer the sellers the least amount of money that you can possibly offer. You almost want to be insulting. I guess when it comes to investment properties, if it's a property for your family home, I think sometimes the negotiation might be a little different, maybe even not. But on an investment property, because you're not emotionally tied to the property, you just want to get the best price. So you want to offer the price that makes sense for you, where when you buy the property at that price, all the numbers work. That your carrying costs are going to be in line with what you want them to be, that the income is going to be enough on the property to pay for the carrying costs, and the typical carrying costs are always going to be the mortgage, the utilities, and the property taxes, and the insurance, that kind of stuff. But I guess
and it depends on the marketing conditions too.
Yeah,
right.
Totally.
So if the property's been listed for 2 days and it's in a very active market and it's listed at $500,000 and you offer $350,000, well, it's probably a non-starter, right? So to the point where it might be insulting, they'll just never deal with you again. But it's
which we've done before.
Yeah, it's always worth a shot. But I just think that too often people are so focused on the price. And I think the advantage that you want is that you want to be able to pay more for a property as long as you know how to make money with the property. So I'll give you an example. In the past, we were buying properties, and this strategy doesn't work as much anymore. The banks don't like it as much anymore. But we bought a number of properties, hundreds with the investors we worked with, where we would put there would be a credit back to the buyer for the closing costs of the property. So we paid full price for properties plus what the credit would be back. So over asking price for the property, because we knew how to make money from the property, and that allowed us to get it versus someone else. So some people, a kind of rookie mistake that we see a lot of people do is they're like, man, they really kind of negotiate over like $2,000 on a $500,000 purchase. And you know what? The $2,000 isn't going to make or break it shouldn't. If you're investing properly, it should not make or break things. And especially if you're investing for the long term, it's really, really pretty insignificant in the grand scheme of things, especially when amortized over a mortgage. It's maybe a couple bucks, I don't even know, a month, if that. And so that's the type of thing that you don't want to get too cheap. Like, focus on, is this the right property? Are you able to make money with this property? And then offer the amount of money that you're still able to make money on this property. You don't have to over offer. You can look for a discount. But I think one of the most common things we see with new investors especially is they are too cheap with the offer. They lose out on a couple properties and they're like, I'm just never going to get a property, and they get frustrated. But it's because they're really tripping over.
They're focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah, they're tripping over pennies and ignoring the dollars.
Yeah, look at the income and look at the expenses.
Tripping over pennies? Tripping over dollars?
Yeah, tripping over pennies.
They can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so this next question is, how long does the seller have to respond to my offer? So in Canada, and specifically in Ontario, you actually, on the offer, can write when your offer is irrevocable until. So if today's, for example, Monday, and you write an offer, you can say this offer is valid and irrevocable until Wednesday at noon. And then the seller has until that time to accept your offer. If it goes beyond that time, technically your offer has expired at that point, but they can still come back to you, but they now counter offer. Your offer has expired and they're countering back to you with a different offer. So really, I guess, the length of time the seller has to respond is completely up to them. If it's a really hot market, they can ignore whatever you want and they'll just take their sweet time on when they want to respond because they know they're in control. But if it's a really down or slow market and you put that they have to respond to you within 24 hours, likely they're going to respond because they're eager to sell the property.
What if my offer is rejected? Well, this is a pretty simple one. If your offer is rejected, that's it. You're done. But what you can do is you can choose to put in another offer, right? So it just means they've rejected that offer. They weren't willing to counter offer, or whoever the representative didn't advise them that a good strategy would be to try to counter with something they deem suitable, because that would be a good negotiation strategy to see where things go from there. But if your offer is outright rejected, well, then you do have the opportunity to draft up a new offer, sign it, and then resubmit it.
And one time when I was trying to buy a property for my family, I went to give the offer. It was rejected. 2 or 3 days later, I kind of forgot about the whole situation. The sellers wrote an offer, signed it, only our signatures were missing, and they were bringing an offer to us, the buyer, because they wanted us to buy the property, and they had put down the price they would accept. So they were trying to come back to us with an offer, which is really rare. You usually don't have the sellers coming to a buyer with like a signed agreement that was missing our signatures. So if your offer is rejected, it doesn't mean the deal's dead, it just means new offers have to be created. The question is, do you have the option to have any inspections? And the answer to that is yes, it's whatever you negotiate. So typically, especially in Canada, we are asking for home inspections on properties, and you put that in on the agreement of purchase and sale that you have the right to a home inspection. And maybe even before the closing date of the property, you have the right, or you're asking for the right to visit the property 2 or 3 other times because you want to measure for curtains or your pool table or whatever that it is that you're putting in the property. So you absolutely have the right. Now, you only have the right, though, if the seller accepts those things in your agreement of purchase and sale. So if they say absolutely not, we're not accepting a home inspection, we're not accepting any other inspections, then they don't have to allow that. So it's really just a negotiation thing between the two of you, and it's whatever you can get the seller to accept when you're acting as a buyer.
Yep, the two most common ones are a home inspection before to make sure that the home's in good condition and that you're happy with it, or whatever condition you want it to be in. It's like that. So that's the most common one. And the second most common one is to have what we call is like a final walkthrough, which a few days before closing, you've put in the offer that you have the right to kind of revisit the property. And that's, a lot of people do that to make sure that the property's still in good condition. There's no other concerns that have come up. They haven't swapped out fridge, a brand new fridge for a 20-year-old one.
Yeah, that's a good point,
that type of
actually.
stuff.
Yeah.
So those are the two most common things that you would, inspections that you would typically put in the offer.
So this next question is, when is the closing date? The closing date is whatever date you have decided with the seller to take possession of the property. That's typically the day that the money is transferred from the bank, if you're getting a mortgage, to pay for the property. So it goes through the lawyer over to the seller's lawyer and to them, and that is acting as the closing date on the property. Sometime, I think typically it's like 60 days from the time of your offer to closing. For whatever reason, that's kind of a very common window, but it can be as quick as 2 weeks. It could be as long as 6 months or longer. It's whatever you guys decide between the buyer and the seller, the date that you will take ownership or possession of the property. Am I missing something on that?
No, I think that's it.
That's it. This next question is, when can I back out if I change my mind? If you have what we would call a firm deal, meaning that you make an offer to a seller and that the conditions are removed, there's no conditions for this offer to fall apart or disintegrate. I felt like 007 there for a second. You disintegrate. If you have a firm deal, you can't really back out of it. If you back out of a firm deal, you're kind of risking some lawsuit situations. But you can back out of a deal if you have some conditions on home inspection or financing, and if you find the home inspection isn't suitable to you or the financing isn't suitable to you, if those conditions are in the offer, then within that window that you've put, you have those conditions. So maybe for like 10 days you have those conditions in there. Anytime in those 10 days, you can back out of that offer. We just finished off the section of the agreement of purchase and sale when you're purchasing one of your first investment properties, and we are segueing into the section about finding tenants.